Alrighty, so in today's video, I'm going to do my full review of the Autel Evo. I've received a lot of messages on Twitter, Instagram, and through YouTube asking me about specific problems with this drone recently, and I wanted to go ahead and talk about my experience because I haven't really done a good job of conveying everything with this drone. So in today's video, I'm talking about all three of them, the Dual, the Pro, and the 8K. Let's get started. What's good, guys? Ken here. You're watching OriginaldoBo, and on this channel, I talk about drone and tech related content. I fly the fuck out of absolutely everything, and my next door neighbor's grandmother if she had a broom. So if that's your jam, hit that subscribe button at the end of this video. So a brief context about my history with Autel. I have owned every single Autel drone that has been produced to date. I started flying back with the X-Star after I ditched my Phantom 3 standard for it, and I loved it. It wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but honestly, no drone is perfect. It had its problems, and I was really super excited when they announced the EVO I. EVO I came out with super high promise. We were supposed to see a 1-inch sensor and all of its glory, and it never happened. Fast forward to 2020, we got the EVO II lineup, which I got a chance to go hands-on with at CES and fly, and I was enamored with it. It was a super interesting drone. It was different and bringing specifications that no other drone on the market could offer at this time, not even DJI. While we're not gonna make this video Autel versus DJI because quite frankly, it gets a little bit redundant, I wanna focus primarily on the good, the bad, and the ugly with these drones. So as always, in typical fashion, I like to start off with the ugly in these videos because I like to leave you with a good taste in your mouth before you walk away. That sounded really bad, but we're gonna roll with it. So let's talk about some of the problems that I've seen with my EVOs specifically. So first things first, the 8K. I have had a obstacle avoidance calibration sensor issue that was happening on the 8K. It out of nowhere just started, and out of nowhere it disappeared while I was doing the comparison video between the 8K versus the Mavic Air. The calibration utility that Autel put out is a piece of shit. It really is. One, it takes immense amounts of computing power to even run it. If you try to use it on a laptop that is, let's say, a dual core or maybe a weak i5, it will absolutely bring the computer to its knees, which makes no sense whatsoever. Step 12 is about as far as I can get with the calibration process. My monitor is a curved monitor. It's not an immensely curved monitor, and I'll get to step 12 and I can't get any further. I don't understand why that is, and I didn't want to try it with my EVO II Pro because I'm not having problems with this sensor, and I was afraid to even go down that rabbit hole. So right out of the gate, there is a problem with their calibration utility. But just as fast as that problem sprung up, it went away, and now I'm not seeing that error on my screen anymore. I have no rhyme or reason as to why it happened. It just did, and now it's gone. It happened actually when I was on a boat filming the EVO II Pro cinematic, and now it's gone. So whatever, right? My second problem with this is I don't like boat mode. I don't understand why I have to manually turn something on to be able to take off from a surface that is not stable. With my DJI drones, and again, I hate to make this comparison, but I have to because it's important, I can just take off from a surface like from a boat, and I don't have to enable boat mode. I wish that Autel would implement a procedure to just skip the buy check on this so that way we can just take off. It's sort of annoying, and sometimes when I'm on a boat, I forget to do that, and those precious seconds do count, especially when you are on the water and you're trying to get a shot. If you have to go into the software to flip that over, that's a problem. Talking about actual virtual switches that are in the application, ludicrous mode. To be able to enable ludicrous mode, I have to now go into the settings and enable that. I wish there was a shortcut button or a switch, sort of like what's on other drones, to quickly toggle into sport mode and toggle back to position in mode when needed. The fact that I have to go into the application to do this is a bit aggravating. Also, the fact that this drone's top speed in its normal position in mode is 22 miles per hour is a bit underwhelming and pathetic. it should be able to at least achieve 34 miles per hour. The original Evo had that option to do 34 miles per hour, and then they changed the software, now it's 22, and then ludicrous is 34 or 45. It's annoying. I also wish it would save those modes when you configure it. So if I'm in sport mode or if I'm in ludicrous mode, save that mode so when I reboot my drone, I don't have to go back into it again if you're not going to give me a shortcut switch. Again, these are minor gripes, and probably some of this could be achieved with software. Actually, all of that could be achieved with software by putting a shortcut to where you can add ludicrous mode to that quick toggle menu below. I think that would be really huge. Let's talk about the way the Evo looks, because I know this is a big topic for a lot of people. It's orange. You're going to have to get the fuck over it. It's orange. That's the color they chose. This first generation Evo was probably my most hated color on a drone because they used a glossy surface and this thing got scratched up to no end. With the Evo II, they at least gave me sort of an orange peel top. But then you have this sort of bulbous area back here that looks like an Oregonda goldfish. Right now, the Association of Oregonda Goldfish are filing a class action lawsuit against Autel because of this. They say it actually looks worse than that goldfish. I'm fucking with you. That's not a deal. That's not actually a real thing. But looks aside, once it's up in the air, you can't see what it looks like. You can't see what it looks like. So the looks for a drone are really arbitrary. It doesn't really matter what it looks like, but it's how it flies. Now, people have asked me, does your Evo veer to the left? And yeah, I do have a slight veer, only in ludicrous mode. But beyond that, it's nothing that I can't tame. Is it something that would prevent me from flying this or not trusting this drone? The answer is no, it's not. It's definitely not, because this thing, Evo 1, when I would fly it, it used to be flying like this, sort of crab mode. And I've learned to deal with it because for the shortcomings, there are ways that they make up for their inability to have refined software. I don't know how to put it any other way, but it's just an inability to have refined software. I've also heard of some IMU issues in which Autel did address with a software update. I have not experienced any of those problems with these drones. Let's talk about the controller, because this is something I feel that Autel sort of just almost pulled a Skydio on. Skydio used a Parrot controller for their drone, and Autel reused their controller. Now you may be saying to yourself, Autel fans, well, the Mavic series reused that controller for 3 years, 4 years now. I just spit. I hope you saw that. HD. Yeah. But this controller needed some improvements. The ergonomics on this were probably one of my biggest gripes with this controller. It just didn't feel all that well in the hands. Now, I'm a pincher. You may not be a pincher. So if you're not a pincher, flying with your thumbs is probably okay. But if you fly like me, these sticks are a little bit short. I've learned to get used to it. And the scroll wheel could have been just like a little bit more down here. And I think that would have been a little bit more acceptable. Again, it's going to be subjective to how big your hands are. And I'm being super critical because I'm an asshole. But on the bottom side of here, we still have USB, micro USB, not even USB-C. I mean, come on. USB-C would have been super ideal because I've seen a lot of people break these ports because they put their charger in the wrong way. Obviously user error, but we could have eliminated that by using something a little bit more universal like USB-C. Beyond that, they did correct the pin issue because it was a tolerance problem. The antennas are going to be a love-hate. I usually fly with my drone antennas down like this, and I've had good luck with this and solid reception. I don't ever fly with a tablet because I have 20/20 vision. I'm like a fucking hawk. I can see things. I don't have a problem. But if you can't see and you want to have a tablet, my suggestion is get yourself a lift door mount because it will rectify that problem. And it's just a badass mount, and you can mount a full-size iPad on it without issues. But I thought the controller definitely needed an update, and they didn't deliver it this year. As far as the range goes, I do feel the range is definitely better. I was able to push this drone out pretty far and have reasonable signal, and it's further than any one normal person should ever need to go. The whole, I'm gonna put my drone out as far as I can go without seeing it is getting to be a little bit stupid. and it's probably gonna get some of us in trouble. Now the cable I use for my controller, I've been using this cable since the EVO 1. I found it online, it's a Skyreach cable. I love this cable because I can just sort of plug it in here. It's not too much as far as excess goes, but then bam, it plugs into my iPhone. They also make one of these for Android and it works really well. It's super clean. So I'll put a link for that cable because that's the one I use. So the controller, I've never really liked the controller, and I'd be lying if I said I did, but I have learned to adapt because every time I pick up this drone, I forget about DJI because I'm now flying an Autel drone and I have to adapt. See, there's something about me that you have to understand. I fly everything. I don't just limit myself to one brand, and every time I pick up a new drone, I try to forget what I love about the previous drone that I flew. It's like getting out of one car and jumping into another. You may have some variances and things will sort of be different, but it still drives. You just gotta have to adapt to how that car feels. Same situation. All right, but what about the battery? Well, the battery was a massive improvement over the first generation Evo. This is the first generation Evo battery, and these batteries were an absolute shit show. I've gone through 3 of these and they swell pretty easy. Now this battery, I believe, is a 4300 milliamp hour battery. It is a 4300. This is a 7100 milliamp hour battery on the Evo 2. Now they made some battery tech improvements that I honestly think were attributed much from the Phantom series. If you notice that this battery, it has vents here. Those vents are there to help prolong the life of the cells. With the Mavic series of battery, there are no vents. Just like with the Autel series of battery for the EVO 1, there are no vents. This was a flawed design because it doesn't allow heat to dissipate from the battery, and in result, you're gonna get cell swelling. Man, that was a freaking mouthful. So this battery, I feel, will last much, much longer. As far as flight time goes, I'm getting roughly about 34 to 35 minutes of flight out of my EVO 2. And I'm pretty happy with that. Now, another thing I love about the EVO 2 is because it's a little bit heavier, it does so much better in the wind. I feel like the wind doesn't really blow it all around like it does with other drones. So you remember that cinematic video I did? Well, I took the Mavic 2 Pro out there to the beach as well. And there was a period when I was trying to orbit around the lighthouse that the wind was blowing it so hard it looked like Marilyn Monroe with her skirt up. I mean, it was atrocious. Every drone can get fucked up depending on the situation or environment. But I felt like the Evos really held its own. It's super stable and it locks in place. I noticed people were talking about a bobbin issue. I calibrate my compass on all of my units right out of the gate. That's like the first thing I do. It's like new drone 101. I calibrate my compass. Sometimes I'll do an IMU calibration. The one drone that I didn't calibrate the compass on, I fucking smashed it into a building, and that was the Mavic Air 2. Saw how that went. So I always calibrate compasses on the drones just because you don't know if they were ever active before or did any sort of QA testing on it. So it's just sort of like my safeguard and everything. So battery life for me is a big win. I'm pretty happy with the battery life, 0 complaints from there. Now, this is where it gets a little bit more technical because here we have both the 8K and the Pro. One of these drones should not exist, and it's the 8K. I would not buy the 8K if you paid me. The reason being, the Pro is so much better of a drone. It really is. The camera is far superior. The colors, the sharpness, the clarity, full sensor readout. It looks absolutely amazing. The reality is you can get the Mavic Air 2 for $799 for all of the performance in this camera that the EVO 2 can do. However, with that said, let's say you buy the EVO 2 8K and you decide later on down the road, you know what, I want to upgrade to the Pro camera. You can do that. With the Air, you're stuck with what you got. You got the quad there. You made your bed. Now you lay in it. Lay in it, Francis. You're just gonna lay there. But with that being said, the colors out of the 8K aren't terrible, but I just never found myself really utilizing the 8K resolution. It was more of a hindrance to edit with it because of that compressed codec. With that said, I do find myself utilizing the EVO II 6K a lot more. I've been taking it with me on client shoots, and I've really been loving the results that I get out of it. Yesterday was the first day I got a chance to do video for a client's house with it beyond photos, and I didn't even color grade the clips. I just shot in HDR and the color was perfect right out of camera. It was clear, I was able to slow it down, I shot in 4K 60, it was sharp and it looked great. So at the end of the day, as far as cameras go, the EVO II 6K is the one that I'm going to choose to buy 9 out of 10 times. 9 out of 10 times, easy. Now they did include the 8K version on the EVO II Dual. So the Dual is that thermal sensor camera that Autel is offering, and it's a pretty incredible sensor. Now the 8K is no slouch, but when you combine that with the Dual, you really have a very compact, usable, probably the most capable thermal camera in this size point for under $15,000, which is impressive. Yes, there is no radiometric, but for most people like roofers, they don't need radiometric to understand if there's a leak or a hotspot on a roof. They're just looking at the physical images and deciding whether or not they actually have to cut that surface or not. Can they repair it, or do they have to replace a roof? And that is important. Also in search and rescue, you're not really measuring radiometrics. So it's not the same as if you were doing power line inspections or going to a solar field and inspecting things. I think that's more than adequate with the 8K combined. I know it sounds like I'm really trashing on the 8K resolution because I was pretty hype about it at CES, but after utilizing the 6K version, I just don't see the point in buying the 8K. It's cool and all because the airframes are the same, but this sensor with the variable aperture, the low light capabilities that rivaled that of the Mavic 2 Pro, actually this did better to me at night than the Mavic 2 Pro did. Now, I'm not encouraging anybody to fly at night, but in the shots that I was able to get at night, this thing gave me a hard on because it was good. It was really good. And the fact that I didn't have to use any denoiser at night, which is rare because a lot of times I have to come back and hit it with neat video, I didn't have to do that with this. And I didn't have to shoot in log, which is pretty damn impressive. And a lot of these photos that I was able to capture with this just are some of my best that I've ever gotten with the drone. I've put these drones into situations where many probably would not. And not once have I ever felt uncomfortable or have I not trusted the drone. Even with the EVO I, I have never once not trusted it. Never once. It's different than DJI. If you're used to DJI, stick with DJI. If you want something different, then Autel is definitely probably for you. The fact that you don't have flight limitations, the fact that there aren't geofencing restrictions that will make you activate or unlock or expose your identity to God knows who, to me is a big plus. When I'm doing a house, I want to, one, get my waiver from the FAA through Kitty Hawk. And then the second thing I want to do is be able to take off. With DJI, too many times I was grounded and not able to provide an agent photos. That's the real deal. And the vast majority of you are probably hobbyists. And there's nothing wrong with being a hobbyist. But don't try to argue with me when my fucking money is on the line and I have to get my drone in the air. Okay? Don't argue with me when my money's on the line, I got to get this in the air, and I'm charging a client for photos and I can't. You've fucking pulled money out of my pocket, DJI, at that point. After I paid for you, I own you, but you are telling me what I can do even though I'm a responsible pilot. So, at the end of the day, there's some problems. It's not perfect. It's not perfect. I spit again. I hope you saw that. Yeah, 4K HD. It's not a perfect drone. It's not a perfect drone by any means. But I'm willing to sacrifice some of the imperfections to have a drone that I know will always take off. I know what to expect. It's always going to work. And it's going to have solid battery life. And if you get the Pro version, you got a really amazing camera. And there's nothing to say that Autel can't keep producing cameras for this drone and keep the same airframe later on down the road. They didn't just make a removable gimbal just to make it. They made it to make it modular. They made it to make it future-proof. And the fact is, they fired the old CEO. They fired the old marketing team for a reason. They realized that, hey, things weren't working. We have to do things different. And the new team does listen. They do watch these videos. And personally, I have had several conversations with Gary, and he's very, very quick to act, and he's very, very quick to get an engineer on the line and start taking notes. There's been several firmware updates. They're very responsive, and it's more than I can say for the likes of DJI. A lot of times you tweet support, they're just gonna read a script and they're gonna go through it. But with Autel, you're going to get yourself a real live person each and every time. Their support is based here in the United States, so that is nice. And their drones work. It's just a different drone. We got to stop getting into this habit of really giving a fuck what we say. I review drones, I'm telling you all this great stuff, but at the end of the day, you, this is your money. This is not my money. You have to decide what you like. If you buy something and you don't like it, guess what? Chances are most retailers have a return policy in which you can send that product back and return it for a full refund, right? Amazon, BH, and I know other retailers have that type of policy. Stop taking what we say online to such an extreme. We're not professionals. We just have a camera, we have a drone, we fly, we give you our experience, and it's just meant to be sort of like a baseline so you can make the best decision as possible. If I constantly bought things based upon reviews, I would miss out on some of the greatest products that I own because I didn't experience it for myself. Everybody puts a drone and a product through a different experience. And none of this is one size fits all. We're all going to see different things. So you have to remember that anytime you watch a video. Just because it's on the internet doesn't always mean it's true. All right, that's it. I don't know if I covered everything. I hope I did. If you still have questions, if this review offended you, make sure you hit that dislike button twice. If this review moved you, make sure you hit the like button. And if you hate my fucking guts and you want to send me a postcard, my address is in the description below. So yeah, you can send me a nasty gram, whatever you want. It's fine. I'm pretty numb to it all. But there, that's my unfiltered review. The good, the bad, the ugly, the EVO II. Stay original.